Crete, or as the natives call it, the Big Island, is the largest and most southern member of the Greek islands. Situated in the Mediterranean Sea between Europe, Africa, and Asia, Crete has been the collision point of nations, ideas, and armies, the meeting point of cultures, and an important trade center since ancient times. Its magic comes from its Mediterranean climate, tropical vegetation, the pleasures of its improbably blue sea, and the forever living memories of ancient cultures. The palaces of the Minoan era are surrounded by Venetian fortresses and bastions, Turkish mosques, and Orthodox churches as a sign of later conquerors. The indented northern shore of the 260-kilometer-long island is rich in peninsulas, harbors, and beaches. Its mountains are as high as 2,500 meters. The capital of Crete is Heraklion. The meaning of the word is the city of Herakles. The ancient Greek and modern Greek language can both be found in Greece. Due to the island's vast tourism, there are lots of English signs, and tourists call the cities and sites by the name used for them in their own language. This leads to real cacophony. The capital is located in the middle of the northern shore. In ancient times, one of Knossos' harbors was home to the most significant slave market. It was first governed by Arabic and Saracen pirates, followed by the Byzantines, then later Venetians. Because of the Turkish threat, Venice turned the commercially and strategically important city into a fortress with huge walls and towers. Many of these have even survived the destruction of the Second World War. The winged lion of St. Mark looks down proudly at the harbor. The Turks besieged the city for 20 years before they managed to capture it. 30,000 defenders and 100,000 attackers died during the siege. The Turkish reigned over the island from 1669 until 1850. The remains of the Venetian dry docks can still be seen next to the harbor. This is where the ships of the famous Venetian fleet were once built and repaired, but now it only provides shade for the tourists. The main square of Heraklion is the Platia Eleftherias, or Freedom Square. The streets of the city center are too narrow for the increased vehicle traffic. As in most Mediterranean cities, many people use scooters instead of cars. The shops, bakeries, grocers, the little cafes, banks, and offices serve the local people rather than tourists, who generally use Heraklion as a starting point or transit station. The beautiful Neo-Byzantine, eclectic Agios Cathedral was built at the end of the 19th century, proving that the later ages added more to the cities than just square houses. The main attractions of the cathedral are the four icons of the 16th century painter Michael Damaskinos. Damaskinos studied in Italy and later was the first master of El Greco, who was also born on the island of Crete. The people born on Crete have always played an important role in Greek cultural and intellectual life. The world-famous composer Mikis Theodorakis and the writer of Zorba, Nikos Kazantzakis, were also born on the island. Kazantzakis was also buried here, and his shrine on the Martinengo bastion proclaims his hymn of freedom. I believe in nothing, I hope for nothing, I am free. The main street of the city is the August 25th Street. This is where most of the travel agencies, car rental agencies, and money changers can be found. Several ancient buildings were discovered while the town was being built. The ruins and the archaeological museum offer relics of the Minoan culture that cannot be seen anywhere else. Although there are no beaches for bathing in the capital, there are several pleasant beaches nearby, like Ayapelagia and Amudari, that await tourists with numerous hotels, hostels, and places of entertainment. Restaurants, discos, and bars line the beaches and the streets running parallel to it. Knossos lies 5.5 kilometers from Heraklion and was the center of Minoan culture. The legends and myths surrounding the city capture the imagination of tourists, and several million people visit the city every year. The location of the city remained a mystery for centuries until its discovery in the 19th century by the British linguist and archaeologist Arthur Evans, who dedicated his whole life to it. Although experts questioned the authenticity and professionalism of the restoration, it is Evans' indisputable merit that he excavated the ruins, protected them from devastation, and made them presentable. Knossos' fame comes from mythology. Androgeos, the son of Minos, king of Crete, died in Athens, and Minos punished the city by ordering it to send 7 boys and 7 girls every 9 years to Crete, where they were devoured by the Minotaur, a half-bull, half-man creature living in a labyrinth built by Daedalus. The Minotaur was killed by an Athenian youth, Theseus. When King Minos found out that Daedalus helped Theseus, he also locked Daedalus in the labyrinth, but the architect escaped with his son Icarus on wings they had built for themselves. Driving north from Heraklion, we often come across caves, unidentified old ruins, and monasteries. Drinking, eating, playing cards, chatting, and talking about politics on the shady terrace of a taverna are all an integral part of Greek village life. Here, it's natural if a taverna happens to be in the courtyard of a church. Crete is the land of hills, where bare mountaintops and rich valleys hide churches and lovely little villages. The Lasiti Plateau on the 2,000-meter-high Dikti Mountain lies at a height of 800 meters. The plateau is not only famous for being the hiding place for several millennia for those on the run, but the mythological birthplace of Zeus, king of the gods, the Dikta Cave, can also be found here. Although the center of the pottery industry is Margaritis, copies of the famous ancient Greek pots in the shape of vases, jugs, amphoras, and plates can be found all over the island. For better profit, they often make concessions to the expense of quality and good taste, but with a little effort, we can still find some really beautiful pieces. In ancient times, the fertile plateau's irrigation was carried out by windmills pumping water. Today, these have been replaced by motor-driven pumps, and the windmills have remained only for show. The rains have washed the soil covering the hills onto the plateau, and because of this and its microclimate protected from the wind, crops are harvested 3 times a year. This is where watermelons, peaches, and nectarines are grown, and tourists should make sure they try these fruits. We can admire the calm life of the little villages stuck in the past and sip the famous Greek frappé, which is slightly whipped Nescafé made with cold water and ice. In its glory, Gordon was as big and rich a polis as Knossos. At the entrance of the extensive field of ruins are the commanding remnants of the St. Titus Cathedral. A real curiosity is the so-called Gordon Code, which is a 17,000-letter text carved in stone. The sandy beaches of Matala are surrounded by steep sandstone walls. Based on historical findings, hermits have lived, died, and been buried here ever since the 1st century A.D. This is where the American Easy Riders of the 60s and 70s found peace for their rebelling souls and moved into the caves. They played the guitar, led a sweet life, and drank lots of wine. The caves have been closed down since then and can now be seen for a fee. The beach is still there, though, which is a lucky thing, as this is one of the best beaches of the island, and people come from far away to visit it. The fact that the small and orderly streets of the former fishing village resemble the Californian beaches is no coincidence, as many former hippies have settled down here. Crete is famous for its wooden souvenirs, wine bottle holders, wooden plates, nutcrackers, trays, and other high-quality unique products which are worth taking home. Agios Nikolaos lies on the peninsula of the picturesque Mirabello Bay and is situated in an interesting place on the Mediterranean. Its inland salty lake is surrounded by steep cliffs, and a small bridge spans the lake's narrow outlet into the sea. There are boats in the lake, and sailboats and yachts ride at anchor in the bay. The fishing boats supply the many restaurants and taverns of the beach promenade with fresh fish and other seafood. The sloping streets come together in the bay at the harbor. Cafes, clubs, restaurants, and shops stand right next to each other. This is a real vacation spot with genuine Mediterranean feeling. Even filmmakers noticed the picturesque place and filmed the successful television series Who Pays the Ferryman in a small bay only a few kilometers from here. The story itself is set on Cyprus, the island of love, but the conditions for filming were far better here. People visiting Agios Nikolaos can also take a trip to the romantic fishing village of Eluda, located 6 kilometers from here. The infamous city of pirates, Olos, is in the southern part of the city. The ruins of Olos submerged into the sea following an underwater earthquake. Tourists can swim around the city's protruding columns and towers. The incredible city of Spinalonga, the Dead City, is also not far from here. This is where the island's lepers were quarantined up until 1954. The city of Agios Nikolaos is bustling not only during the daytime, but also has a lively nightlife. A Greek vacation is not complete without unforgettable dinners spent in the balsamic sea breeze in the taverns on the bay. Some places play pop music to go with dinner, but several places have live lyre, bouzouki, or guitar music. The bright stars in the sky and the lights of the city and the ships reflecting in the sea, a warm breeze blowing, and delicious smells coming from the kitchen. Gyros and souvlaki are being cooked for the guests. Visitors should really try the tasty metaxa, the anise-flavored ouzo, the local brandy called raki, and the mild Greek beer mitos. After dinner, tourists can dance until the morning hours or go for a walk in the harbor and the shopping streets. After a day of hot weather, swimming, sports, or excursions, tourists can enjoy the romance of the Greek evening and night. Our next stop is the Sirares Peninsula. According to legend, the thousands of date palms in Vai grew from the date seeds that the Arabic pirates spit everywhere. The best time to visit the city is in the beginning of the summer season, when the palms are beautifully green. By the middle of summer, the burning heat of the sun turns their leaves yellow, and the city's beach is also overcrowded. Sitya is the administrative center of eastern Crete. With a population of 7,000 people, the city does not have significant tourism. Opposite Sitya, the city of Gerapetra is on the shores of the Libyan Sea. This is the most southern city of Greece and Europe, where temperatures of the sea seldom drop below 20 degrees centigrade, even in October. The two sites of the city are the Venetian fort and the small minaret. Reportedly, Napoleon himself spent a night here on his way to Egypt. But this shouldn't influence you when choosing a holiday destination. There are lots of orange, lemon, and tangerine plantations along the road, and locals selling fresh fruit. When walking in the city, you should try the freshly squeezed orange juice called homos. Did you know that Bali is only 2 hours away by plane from the heart of Europe? Of course, this isn't Bali in Indonesia, but a village called Bali, located halfway between Heraklion and Rethymno. White and pastel-colored houses are typical here. Bali is popular because of its wind-protected bay, pebbled beach, and slowly deepening water. The beach, the yacht, and the fishing boat harbor all fit peacefully into the bay. The picturesque town lies in a crescent form, caressing the bay. The restaurant boat on the rocks is an interesting sight. The underwater cave opening 3 meters below the surface of the beach's huge cliff is a favorite place for amateur divers. Fodele is a typical Cretan village hidden between orange groves. Nobody would even know of its existence if the world-famous painter Domenicos Theotokopoulos hadn't been born here. The name doesn't ring a bell? The Spanish couldn't pronounce his name, so they only called him the Greek, or El Greco. The artist first studied in Venice, where he worked together with Tiziano and Tintoretto. A A Spanish lord lured him to Toledo, where he was also supported by King Philip II. El Greco lived in Toledo until his death in 1614. His birthplace is now a museum. Although his original paintings cannot be seen here, they're exhibited in the greatest galleries of the world, the reproductions authentically show his exalted mysticism, Renaissance painting technique, and extreme Baroque passion, which together make his art immortal. Rethymno is the third largest city of the island and the intellectual center of Crete. The university town also has a music conservatory and a fine arts academy. Throughout the town, the effects of Venetian and Turkish architecture can be felt, making the site of the old city behind the harbor extremely exciting. Fishing boats bring fresh fish to the city at the break of dawn. The tastiest and most expensive fish is the red mullet, which the locals call barbunia. It's worthwhile to taste the swordfish. Its thick fillet slices are usually grilled on charcoal and seasoned with oregano, a vital spice of not only Italian, but also Greek cuisine. A great side dish to fish and grilled or skewered meat is a big bowl of fresh salad. The most famous is the Greek salad, or the horiatiki, made of cucumber, peppers, a little onion, and lots of tomatoes, with feta cheese on top. Not only the mosque and minaret remind us of Turkish times, but also the round pretzels being sold everywhere. Turkish-style buildings with wooden porches and Venetian bourgeois houses surround the lovely little square where the Raimondi fountain stands. Its decorative Corinthian columns enclose 3 lion-headed gargoyles. A Cretan specialty is the painstakingly decorated wreath-shaped bread that receives a new ornament and name for every holiday. The harbor and the bay is a photographer's dream. Excellent subjects everywhere. It's almost impossible to ruin pictures taken here, where excellent shots can be taken of the houses reflecting in the bay, the lighthouse, the fishing boats and luxury yachts, the waves breaking on the rocks, and the Greek flag flying on top of the old castle wall. In a place like this, 36 shots are never enough, so be sure to have plenty of film for your camera, and don't leave your visor and your UV or skylight filter at home. It's also useful to have several lenses, especially the panoramic lens may come in handy. The fortezza, the Venetian fort, was built on the ruins of the ancient citadel of Rethymno on a strategic point of the harbor. The city was attacked by Turkish pirates in 1571. In reply to this, Venice built an incredible castle and wall protecting the city that is the Old Town today. The fort suffered the same fate as the one in Heraklion. After a 2-month siege and lots of casualties on either side, the Turks captured it in 1645. This is when the church was converted into a mosque. The building stands empty even today, unlike the nicely decorated chapel. We can take a look at the former officers' quarters, the barracks, the armory, and the other buildings under renovation. Looking down from the castle walls, we're met by the impressive view of the blue sea. East of the harbor lies the modern part of town, the bustling seaside resort with its cafes and shops. The Cretan Wine Festival is held in the city park every July. Crete is also famous for its sponge fishing. If you want to buy sponges of any shape and size, you can do so relatively cheaply here, where they are fished. The 4-kilometer-long sandy beach is full of parasols. The endless rows of palm trees and the Greek summer enchant sun and sea lovers. Farther inland, we encounter other beauties. Let's take an interesting trip to the monastery of Preveli. The road leads us through bare rocks at a height of 2,000 meters into the kingdom of mountain goats. From the lookout tower, we can see fertile green hills, and through the lush vegetation, whitewashed houses and churches peek through. We're driving through the enchanting canyons of Corteliotis. There's hardly any water in the river during the summer, but the oleander still blossoms. As we draw nearer to our destination, the river widens. The river is crossed by an old stone bridge. The serpentine steps lead us up to the cliffs surrounding the bay, where we're rewarded for our journey by a spectacular panorama. Preveli Beach is spectacular because it is located in the sandy inlet between the Emerald River and the aquamarine blue sea, so we can swim in either freshwater or salty water, sunbathe, or relax under palm trees. The Preveli Monastery was built on the hill above the beach in the 16th century. In World War II, it offered sanctuary to British soldiers fighting here, who rowed from the beach to the submarine that took them to Egypt. The only lake on Crete is the Clearwater Korna Lake. Lefkaori Mountain gazes at itself in the shimmering green reflection of the lake. Let's take a breather here before continuing on our journey. Agios Nikolaos and Rethymno are enchanting towns, but first prize in the most beautiful city of Crete competition goes to Chania. A motorboat takes guests to the restaurant on the pier. Crete's second most heavily populated city has kept its ancient image. Built on the ruins of the Minoan Cydonia, Chania received the name Chania during the Venetian reign, which the Greeks changed according to their taste. It is by now not surprising that the city is mainly made up of Venetian and Turkish buildings. However, these create a unique and matchless combination with the narrow and winding alleys of the Old Town and the neoclassicist buildings of the 19th century. The Lefkaori Mountain provides a spectacular background to the setting. As in all other cities, the Venetians tried to protect the city from the Turks by a castle wall. The majority of the ruins of the 3-kilometer-long wall can still be seen today. Just like in Heraklion, there's a domed arsenal in the inner harbor. A real specialty of Chania is the horse-drawn carriage that not only takes tourists around the old town, but also adds a nice dash of color to weddings and an excellent photo topic. Setting out from the fort called Castelli and walking around the edge of the bay in front of shops built on the ground floor of the mainly patrician Venetian houses, we come to the Naval Museum. If you're the least interested in sailing or scuba diving, this museum is a must-see. The museum is located opposite the lighthouse in the Firkus Tower. The tower is famous for being the place where they first hoisted the official Greek national flag in 1913, the blue and white stripes with the cross. There's a great variety of shells, sponges, spices, and local souvenirs in the shops. You can't get enough of the many colors of the little shops in the old town, the wrought iron balconies and flowery ledges, the play of the sunlight and the shadows on the cobbled stones of the narrow streets. Chania is the second largest city of Crete today, but it was the capital until 1972. The airport is a reminder of this era and makes the lives of tourists and travelers to Chania, Agios Nikolaos, Platanias, Amirida, and other nearby resorts easier. The nearby Stavros is also a famous place. This is where the movie Zorba the Greek was filmed. The writer of the film was Zakhantzakis, buried in Heraklion, the composer Mikis Theodorakis, and the star who recently died, Anthony Quinn. Theodorakis composed the slow, rhythmical music just for him to dance to in the movie. As the sun sets, the lights of the promenade light up. A light breeze cools the heat, and the bouzouki plays in taverns and cafes. The peak of Crete's natural beauty is the Samaria gorge that is a part of the World Heritage. A long and winding road leads to the entrance of the national park, and on our way we drive past charming little villages and monasteries. Narrow steps lead down to the gorge from Skala. Before setting off, take some time to feast your eyes on the majestic mountain peaks that sometimes hide bashfully behind the clouds. The 18-kilometer-long gorge, with its protected flowers, a breed of mufflin that only lives here, and its rock formations, is an unforgettable sight. Tourists receive a card at the entrance that they have to hand back at the exit. This way, mountain rescuers know if there's anyone missing and can start looking for them. The gorge reaches the sea at Ayarumelli. Tired tourists can take a breather here and enjoy some freshly squeezed orange juice, frothy beer served in cool glasses, or refreshing iced coffee. If you have some time before the boat departs, you can take a dip in the clear sea, and if you still haven't had enough, then, after arriving in Heraklion, you can take a look at the last site of the southern shore, the allegedly haunted 14th century fort Frango Castello. The boat trip to Heraklion is short but pleasant. We're sailing on the incredibly blue waters of the Libyan Sea, close to the wild and rocky shores. The water here is more than 1,000 meters deep, and the boat doesn't leave the shores. There's no sign of life on the rocks, almost no vegetation and no animals apart from the mountain goat. Hermits inhabit the small monasteries scattered across the area. Lutro is a real gem. Tiered, white, square houses surround the little bay in a half circle. A couple of restaurants and a church make the picture of peace and tranquility complete. Zeus once said to a traveler in Crete, "Whoever steps onto this holy land touches the soul of the gods. No curse shall befall him, his luck will never fail him. Spend your days in peace, and when you return home, you will be happy."